Welcome to The Explainer. Right now, as you're listening to my voice, you might think you're just passively absorbing information. But the truth, it's far more incredible than that. Your brain is actually acting as this highly sophisticated modeling engine. It's taking in all this chaotic data, like patterns of light and physical vibrations, and it's actively constructing the exact reality you're experiencing right this very second. Today, we're going deep into the biological and the philosophical architecture of exactly how your brain pulls off this mind-bending feat. To get us there, here's our roadmap. First up, we'll explore the three-layered brain. Second, we'll map out the alchemy of cognition. Third, we're unlocking human creativity. And finally, we'll trace the evolution of you. Let's get into it. Section 1, the three-layered brain. We're going to be using Paul MacLean's triune brain theory to really understand the evolutionary hardware packed inside your head. You see, the human brain isn't just this one uniform biological blob. It's actually a cumulative, layered structure. It's kind of like an archaeological dig of our own evolution. At the very base, we have the reptilian brain. This is roughly 500 million years old, and it handles raw survival. This is exactly what makes you reflexively pull your hand away from a hot stove without even consciously thinking about the heat. Moving up from there is the mammalian brain, or the limbic system. Now, this assigns emotional value, like am I safe or am I in danger, and it attaches memory to facts. And finally, sitting right on top is the outermost layer, the cerebral neocortex. That's our primate brain, the part that manages language, abstract thinking, and all that complex future planning. Looking at this really highlights a massive contrast. On one side, you've got the primitive reptilian brain, which is just utterly obsessed with immediate survival and reflexive action. It lives strictly in the present moment. But on the flip side, the neocortex, that gives us this absolute superpower of predicting the future. It literally allows us to design virtual, completely non-existent scenarios right in our heads. And, whether that's inventing a groundbreaking new technology or honestly just stressing out about a meeting next Tuesday, it's all happening right there.
Moving right along to Section 2, the alchemy of cognition. Let's see how this biological hardware actually processes the raw data flying at us from the world around us. So this cognitive alchemy is what transforms physical inputs into fully expressed ideas, and it happens across 4 continuous stages. It kicks off with sensation, which is simply receiving raw environmental data, stuff like light and sound. That immediately triggers perception, which is where your brain steps in to categorize those signals. After that comes thought. Now, because we humans have the ability to delight our reactions, we actually use this space to let our memories and emotions mature that sensory data into a really complex internal model. And finally, we reach expression. This is where we take that internal model and externalize it back out into the actual world. I actually want to pause on that second step for a second, perception. When you identify a round red object as an apple, your brain is instantly, in a fraction of a millisecond, comparing new sensory data against this vast archive of memory data you've built up over your life. The really profound takeaway here, we don't passively see the world as it is. We actively see it as we know it. We're just constantly matching up physical data against our mental memory banks to make sense of the whole shebang. And that brings us to expression. By utilizing specialized regions of the brain, like Broca's area for motor control and Wernicke's area for meaning, we convert abstract internal logic into language, art, writing, you name it. But here's the crucial part. Expression isn't just a one-way street. It initiates a really vital feedback loop. Seriously, this is exactly why talking through a complex problem out loud, or even just writing in a journal, actually helps you understand your own thoughts so much better. By externalizing them, you're reperceiving and strengthening your own internal models. It's brilliant. All right, Section 3, unlocking human creativity. Now, what's really interesting about this next part is how we find that initial spark, the one that turns mechanical cognitive processing into true spontaneous creativity. To really understand this spark, we've got to look at consciousness itself. The philosopher Edmund Husserl called the core characteristic of human consciousness intentionality. Basically, this means your consciousness doesn't just sit there idle. It actively reaches out to grasp the true essence of an object. It is this incredible, intentional glue that binds all our fragmented sensations, our memories, and our emotions together into one seamless, coherent experience. But here's the thing, consciousness alone doesn't entirely explain creativity. On one side, our conscious mind is kind of like a puzzle solver, right? It's orderly, it's logical, it goes step by step. But on the other side, we have Freud's concept of the unconscious.
Think of this as a massive, bubbling cauldron where tons of memories, experiences, and desires are just freely colliding with one another. So while your conscious mind is busy working through strict logic, your unconscious is playfully and honestly kind of chaotically smashing different pieces of data together, running in the background. And that chaotic collision, that is exactly where creativity is born. True inspiration is simply the instant a brand new link, one that formed deep in the unconscious, suddenly rises all the way to the surface of your conscious mind. So, when you get that brilliant aha moment in the shower or when you're just out for a walk, your brain isn't just neutrally solving a puzzle. It literally rewards you with a hit of dopamine and serotonin for forming a brand new connection. It feels good to be creative for a reason. Let's zoom out for our fourth and final section, the evolution of you. We're going to see how humanity's understanding of this exact cognitive power has evolved over centuries of philosophical thought. What we're looking at here represents a massive historical paradigm shift in how we actually view ourselves. Back in ancient times, humans were seen merely as passive discoverers of truth. We just found what was already there. Then, during the modern era, we got an upgrade. We became active designers. And today, we see ourselves as generative creators. Over time, we have completely evolved from being mere observers of a pre-existing reality to becoming fluid architects of our own existence. Historically speaking, thinkers like Plato and Augustine believed our role was strictly limited to, imitating perfect ideas or decoding some sort of divine blueprint. You weren't supposed to create anything new. You were just supposed to copy. But the modern era completely liberated us from that. Heavyweight thinkers like Descartes and Kant came along and argued that humans are actually active subjects. We actively reconstruct the world around us, using our own rational categories to design it from the ground up. And, of course, that line of thinking led to René Descartes' incredibly famous declaration, "I think, therefore I am." Honestly, this was like the ultimate philosophical upgrade to our human operating system. By questioning and doubting absolutely everything external, Descartes found absolute certainty in the thinking self. He placed human reason as the ultimate, undeniable tool for designing our models of the world. But the evolution definitely didn't stop there. Today, in the contemporary view, we are generative subjects. Nietzsche urged us to use our will to power to tear down old models and create totally new values. Freud taught us to mine the chaotic, dark depths of the unconscious for innovative ideas. And Deleuze, he defined us not as fixed, static entities, but as fluid beings who are constantly becoming within a massive web of relationships. We're no longer viewed as a finished product. We're an ongoing, wildly dynamic experiment of self-creation. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought. You are Homo Modellus, a being equipped with this brilliantly evolved brain that dynamically filters sensations, structures perceptions, and creatively externalizes thoughts into reality. Because you are actively constructing your world right now, rather than just passively receiving it, the ultimate question is this. As a fluid being constantly becoming, what new reality will you choose to model next?